So let's try making our own README for this idiotic bookish disco repository. I just have to decide if I'm going to make that as Colt. I guess, sure, let's do it as Colt, and then we'll push it up and then pull down as Stevie. It doesn't matter who makes it. It just needs to end up in this repository. And this is normally something you do pretty early on, though you don't have to. Honestly, a lot of the time you might be working on a project and you don't expect anybody to ever see it. You don't expect it to surface, to see the light of day publicly. And then you decide, actually, maybe this is useful to other people. Let me put it online. I need to add a README. So it's not something you have to do at the beginning, but it is definitely a good practice to get into. And also, I forgot to mention this about READMEs. They are probably the one thing that a recruiter, a non-technical person would see if they're looking at your projects. They're not going to look at the code, right? They're probably not going to read over the particular files on this project if I happen to have made this, but at least this gives them some gateway, some entry point where they can try and gauge, or at least maybe understand the point of this whole project. Anyway, back to bookish disco. Let's make sure I'm up to date here. Okay, so I can make the README. Technically, I can just make it on GitHub, right? I can do this, add file, and make it here, and then pull down as Colt and pull down on Stevie's machine. But I'll make it locally. Before I do anything, I should always make sure that I have the latest changes. So I'll do git pull origin main. I don't think there isn't any changes, right? We still have, already up to date, but just a good practice. It just makes it easier so I don't have to deal with like merges or something after I've made the README. So I'll make the README file. It should go in the root of my directory conventionally. So the root of my Git repository, the project. So I'll make that file, .md, it's just a markdown file. So here it is, readme.md, and then I can just put some super basic stuff in here. We'll do a heading like we saw in the previous video if you watched it, just the main heading. How about bookish disco? And then below that, we could even copy a README. So below, we'll put a little paragraph of text that just says what it is. Maybe something like bookish disco is a repository name generated by GitHub. Okay, bookish disco is a repository name randomly generated by GitHub. This project does nothing. It is purely a demo for a course on Git/GitHub. Okay, so there's our basic repository, or our basic Markdown file so far. If you're using VS Code, you can actually preview Markdown if you have a Markdown file, .md. If you open the command palette, and then type Markdown or M, and it just comes up for me, recently used, Markdown open preview. This is what we're dealing with. We've got our heading, and we've got our little text there. And maybe we'll get fancy. We'll do some bold around bookish disco. Okay, so that's our basic README file. Now I'm going to add that, right? Git add README, git commit-m, add README file. And now we'll push this up, git push origin main. Now we refresh our page for bookish disco, and there it is. We've got our lovely README showing up. So the file is here, the commit is here, but also GitHub is rendering it for me automatically. It detected README. So it doesn't do that for any other file. It's a special name it's looking for, and that's kind of it. That's readme.md, right? We could spend a lot of time making it look nicer, but we're not going to. This project has no purpose other than to demonstrate how READMEs work and how, I guess, collaboration can work. So the last thing we should do, though, is go over to Stevie, right? He has the same repo, bookish disco, and he does not have this README. He does not have that latest commit locally. Right, that's the last commit he has is add to artists. He does not have this file for the README, so he doesn't have any changes that he's made. So we're just going to pull down, git pull origin, and then main. If that's the branch, it's the only branch. We'll pull down, and now we have that README. Type git log, new commit. So just another example of somebody doing some work, pushing it up, and then somebody else, another collaborator, pulling it down. And that's all there is to READMEs.